Hi there, I'm Nancy Nash with Starfish Strength, and today I want to give you a full body stretch routine you can use to keep yourself feeling flexible and strong. We're going to do a static stretch routine, which means we're going to hold each stretch for 10 to 20 seconds to get maximal benefit from it. So you want to make sure that you do this when the body is warm. What I mean by warm is after a workout, after a walk, after gardening, after taking a bath or a shower, after being in the sauna, literally when my body is warm. The reason for that is that when your body is warm, it's going to be most open to building permanent length in the muscles that we're stretching. So we want to make sure that you get maximum benefits from this stretch. The other thing I want to note is that your personal flexibility is different than mine, and that is just fine. We want to slightly increase your flexibility wherever it's at right now. Keep in mind that everyone's flexibility is a little bit different and only do what feels good to you. All you need for today's stretch routine is a mat or a towel and enough space to make your own personal snow angel on the floor. Shelby, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Starfish Strength Inc. recommends that you consult your healthcare professional before beginning any exercise program. This content is intended for informational purposes and should not be used to self-diagnose or self-treat any health, medical, or physical condition.
Great, let's get started. So as we go through, I'm going to show you where to start with the stretch and where to progress so that you feel it in your body. The first stretch we're going to do is a straddle stretch. I'm going to bring my legs apart in a V. Those of us that are less flexible, it's going to be a pretty small V, and I'm going to sit back here on my hands. So remembering with this that I want to hinge from the waist, not from the shoulders. It's okay if I'm sitting back here, if I can sit up tall, and I can be hinging at the waist and not doing anything unkind to my upper shoulders. My next progression, if I'm not feeling it too much in the back of the legs, which is where we should be feeling our straddle stretch, is to step my hands to the sides of my legs, maybe bring them a little bit wider. If this feels like enough, great. I'm sitting up really tall here. I'm putting a little pressure into my hands even to make sure that I don't feel too much tension in the low back, that I can still feel it in the back of the legs. And then I'm also going to think about pointing my toes towards me. So as I point my toes towards myself, that is going to start increasing the stretch up the legs. So pushing into the hands, pulling the toes back, I should feel that quite a bit. And if I don't, now I'm going to walk my hands onto my thighs. And then I could even walk my hands down the center. But again, I want to make sure that I'm hinging from the waist. So if I'm reaching beyond my feet, that looks pretty fantastic as far as am I a human pretzel. But if I'm not benefiting, I'm not getting that stretch in the back of the legs that I'm looking for, that's not really that helpful. So think about our hinge point here at the waist to really maximize that stretch for yourself. So while I've been going on and on, we've been holding this stretch. So now we're going to change it slightly. I'm going to have you bend one knee and bring a foot in towards you. If you do find that this is unkind to your knee for any reason, you could use a foam roller or a rolled up towel right underneath your knee. So now I'm going to sit up and I'm going to turn towards my outstretched leg. And again, I'm going to hinge forward from the waist. So if that feels like a good stretch in this hip, and I can still feel it a bit in this leg, fantastic. If I need to progress this a little bit further, I could also think about reaching this opposite arm towards the outside of the outstretched leg. So now you're going to notice that you really increase that stretch throughout your back, throughout your hip. So keep in mind that your flexibility in one side is going to be different than it is on the other. So most of us do have a dominant side, and we aren't a perfect match left to right. Being patient and curious for what that feels like side to side. So maybe on this side, I don't feel like I need that support anymore. So now I'm going to hinge from the waist. I'm going to reach the outside of this foot or shin or knee with the opposite hand, turning across my body. And remembering this turn should actually initiate from the middle part of my spine. So it's really a turn and reach. So from here, I'm going to actually have you lay it all the way down onto your back. Initially, my knees are bent. I'm going to drop the knees to one side and reach hands to the other side. And hold there for a couple moments. So I should feel this in the outside of the hip on top. I should feel this in the front of the chest, on the arm that's on the bottom. And then switching sides again, being curious for how this might feel entirely different on the opposite side of the body. So holding there for a few seconds. Then I'm going to come back to center. Now I'm going to straighten one leg and drop one knee across. So I'm reaching away from the direction that the knee is dropping. So it's actually the same side that's stretching, right? So I've got my right arm outstretched, I've got my right knee dropping across the left leg. So I feel a lot in the outside of the right hip and the front of the right arm. And then switching sides here, straighten the right leg, bend the left knee, and turn the opposite way. So now I should feel this in the outside of the left hip. So maybe this feels a little bit tighter. So I'm going to have you turn to lay on your side, and you may actually want that towel now as a pillow just to make sure that your neck is not in an unkind position. If I didn't have the towel, I could also use my hand behind the head just to make sure that that neck stays neutral the whole time we're stretching. This stretch is actually meant for the front of the thigh and hip. And the first thing I want to do to line up is kick that foot back. So now I've got a 90-degree angle in this knee, and I'm going to think about doing my pelvic tuck, pulling my lower abs in just a little bit, just enough so I can start to thrust that hip forward. And at this point, hopefully I do feel a little bit of a stretch in the front of my thigh or my hip. I'm going to approximately keep the shoulder, hip, and knee lined up as I begin to bring that bottom knee up. And bring this knee up just to where I need it so that I can feel a good amount of stretch in the front of that thigh and hip. Now, the benefit of doing this on my side is that I should also get a pretty good stretch in the outside of this hip. So I'm going to pause and hold here where this feels like a good stretch to my body. So that might mean that I didn't bring this knee up quite as far, or that I was able to bring it up a lot more to really stretch these muscles. It really depends on how tight they are right now. I want to straighten my legs, give the legs a chance to move around, and then turn myself over. So as we said, this might feel entirely different on this side. So I'm first going to start by bringing that top foot back, bending at the knee, and then thinking about lining up my knee, hip, and shoulder by tucking the pelvis and thrusting this hip forward slightly. So when I find that initial stretch in the front of the thigh and hip, now I'm going to start to bring up the other knee. I can already tell you I can feel the difference for myself left to right, being very right dominant. I felt it really strongly on the right. On the left, it's a lot more mild. You might find that you need to stretch your tighter side just a little bit longer to kind of get yourself matched back up again and feel fantastic for the rest of the day. So just being patient and curious for those differences side to side. So now I'm going to bring both feet back together, Let the legs move around for a moment before I come up. We're gonna come to a tabletop position on the hands and knees. So if you do find that this is problematic for your knees, don't be afraid to put your towel underneath just to give yourself a little extra support. So I'm gonna do the cat and cow position a couple times here. So exhaling all of my air, I'm gonna try to look towards my belly button and let the neck drop down, let the head hang to neutral, and then inhaling, coming up to cow, letting the belly drop down in an unflattering position. This is going to stretch my abs. So go ahead and exhale again, stretching the lower back, the middle back, between the shoulders, really thinking about pushing through the fingertips to really maximize that stretch between the shoulders and in the neck. Mindfully reversing that stretch to cow, letting the belly drop down, letting the spine curve the other way. So try that one more time, looking towards the belly, and then slowly inhaling again, letting yourself drop the belly. Now that our back feels a little bit more stretched out, we're gonna widen our knees here. And again, I could unroll my towel and make sure I've got plenty of knee support. So I wanna make sure that my knees are wider than my feet. So if I widen my feet, that's actually gonna put a lot more stress on the knees. So we're gonna sit back to where this feels reasonable, helpful, comfortable, okay? So if I've got really tight hips today, I might still be up here, but I might still feel a pretty good stretch in my hips, in my back, and in my shoulders. So really bring your knees as wide as you need them to be. And then I could also put a pillow right under here, underneath my chest to take a little stress off the shoulders. So give yourself the assist that you need to make this feel good in your body. So pause and hold for a few seconds, pushing through the fingertips. And then we're gonna walk both hands to one side. So walking the hands towards the left, I should feel an increased stretch in my right side and the right hip. And then coming back to center, you can come up for a moment if you want, pushing back and walking both hands to the right. I should feel an increased stretch all throughout my left side, and especially into the left hip and shoulder. And then coming back to that all fours position again. I'm now going to take one hand and reach through the armpit. So I'm more going to let this hand passively drop down on the floor. So I'm not actively reaching so much as just kind of letting it fall to the floor. And then I might push my hips back a little bit more. If you don't already feel this, what we should be stretching is the middle part of the back and the back of the shoulder. And then coming back to center, I'm going to do that. Reach again, let the arm just kind of passively hang there. Push the hips back, push forward through the fingers, and hopefully I can feel that stretch now in the middle of my back and the back of the shoulder on the left side. Coming back to a seated position, however you're most comfortable, I'm going to have you reach one hand behind my head or down between my shoulder blades. So this is really personal. It depends on how flexible my chest and shoulders are, not just as a person, but left to right. I can tell you I'm tighter on the right side, so this is gonna feel like more of an ask for me. If you experience any pain in your shoulder, always modify this for yourself. You could always keep your hand at the ear. But if it feels okay to go behind your head, go there. And if it feels okay to go down between your shoulders, go there. And then we're just gonna look up. So as I look up, I should feel a good stretch in the back of my arm, in the front of my chest, in kind of multiple sides of my shoulder. And then going to the other side, I'm gonna reach one hand behind the head or down between the shoulders and look up. And now I'm gonna take one arm and hook it. You can think of like a Popeye arm. I'm gonna hook it right in front and then use the other hand to continue to pull that arm over. And if I can, I'm gonna look over that shoulder. So this is still stretching the back of the shoulder, but where thread the needle stretched kind of underneath the shoulder, this should be stretching the top of the shoulder because our little Popeye motion here helps us get into that position. So I do see people stretch like this. Think about the muscles you're stretching here. If I want to make these muscles less tight and I'm cramping my arm up to my face, you can feel how tight that's making those muscles. So try my little Popeye arm and you tell me what you think. And then going to the other side, little Popeye arm on the other side. Thanks for stopping by to stretch with me. I hope you found something you can use today to seize your inner star. I'd love to hear from you in the comments about your favorite stretches and what exercise topics I can cover for you next. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next video.